So Canada have just fallen to Mexico's women's under 20 team by the score of 4-2, securing them a spot in the second place and playing the winner of group. And playing the winner of the opposite group in the competition. What does it mean? Well, let's talk about it. All right, guys, so there it is. Canada falls to Mexico at the youth level. Some may say again, but I think there's a different tinge to the story, not just because of the weather, but it adds 4-2, guys. If you like this type of content, we do generally Canadian and African content. And so make sure you like, comment, and if you like this type of content, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know every time we drop a video. But Canada falls to Mexico's U20 team on the women's side by a score of 4-2. And there's a couple talking points here. I think the first thing you want to talk about is you want to acknowledge the team. And it's something that we haven't done in a while just because I just get into talking. And ADHD is real. But there's so many different ways to think about this game just because of how it went and how it progressed. Mexico, I think, is still a good, solid side. And they've beaten Canada at the youth level rather consistently over the last few years. But I'm more encouraged by their games every time they play Canada. I'm more encouraged by Canada just by how their level is. And I really liked it here. I think it's tough to judge this game because there's it's a slick pitch, which means everything's going to roll a little bit faster. Then it becomes a sloppy pitch. And then there's a delay. Let's go to this lineup here and talk about it. So Canada started. They had Scully, Okiki, Oching, Judea Collin, so Gibson, Gina Hernandez Gray with Tegan Mellenhorst and Olivia Chisholm and Istaki and Nelly LaRouche up top. Google has this more as a 5-3-2. To me, it felt more like a 4-3-2. It was a 5-3-2 because in defending, you had more of a back three, but really had more of a back two with Okiki and Oching sitting back. Now, you'll notice, yes, there's no Annabelle Chukwu here. Liana Tarasco again off the bench. Juliette Perrault off the bench as well. Katie Ozard and April Letang also off the bench. It's very interesting to kind of take a look at this game and say what were you looking at it. They were on a rotation, which to me meant, okay, I want to see how this team responds. And if it's close, you bring on an Annabelle Chukwu to try to steal it at the end. Or if it's out of hand, maybe you just let the team go through. By no means is this trying to disparage the other players, but with Chukwu not playing, it was a good opportunity for Istaki and LaRouche to really show what they can do up top. And the game started well. At one point, the possession was effectively 60-40, which is not something that you're used to for Canada versus Mexico games, especially how it is. The scoring opens up. It starts the rate of this game, which is, I think, a very big point here. I'm not going to make complaints about pitch quality. Every country is in a different space, and I've made these comments before. See my comment on the women's U20s, again, 2 years ago. And then, the CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup, where the U.S. played Canada in effectively a slip and slide. But you saw, the thing that was interesting to me was you had to see the players adjust. Both teams were really trying to pass through because instinctively that's what you do. You pass the ball around. And it was turned into that Canada U.S. Gold Cup women's game where back passes were going to be very dangerous. But you saw Mexico was a little bit more used to it. That they had played a game earlier in terrible conditions. So they were trying to lift. And by the second half, Canada had just gone to more of a dump and chase type of approach, which worked well. At times, you could hem a team back, and you can try to create opportunities going through. But it's starting to rain. Tegan Mellenhorst scores in the 18th minute off a ball that the Mexican keeper Martinez goes to claim. She collides with her keeper. Ball bounces around a few people's legs. Tegan gets to it, puts it in the back of the net. Now, earlier in that game, Eilish has a cross that comes in and she puts it off the post. And it goes off the post and then ricochets across the front of the net, but no Canadians are there to put it away. At the beginning of this game, Canada was playing well. It gets to 1-0, and then you get a corner in the 26 minutes, and Ali Soto sends it low. Jeanette Okiki tries to clear. It ricochets off her thigh, bounces past the goalkeeper, Noel Henning, and it's 1-1. Then we get a 2-hour delay in the game, 2-hour pause. And so you're seeing the delay continue on. Till eventually you reach a point where Mexico grows into that game, and now they're able to start the push. Right at this point, the pitch isn't rolling. The pitch is what it is. It's soggy, it's soft, and you're waiting for the grass to absorb it. But it hasn't done it yet. So Mexico gets the ball deep. There is a second ball. They win. First shot is saved. Second shot, ricochets, goal. Maria Lancano in the 37th minute. And then you get to the additional time. Long ball after some good pressure from Canada. Monserrat Salvador gets the ball, starts to break towards net with only, I believe it's Janet Okiki with her. Noelle Henning comes out, tries to assist her defender, but I think she comes out a little bit too early, especially with the pitch being in the condition it is. At that point, I would assume a turf monster would have stolen it, because you saw that a lot with the players. Henning misses the ball. Saldivar gets it, goes around, puts it into the back of the net. It's 3-1. And at this point, I'm like, I was trying to learn stuff. And would I have loved to beat Mexico? Yes. But let's see what happens. I'm thinking just let the game roll out and see what happens. But Sydney Tai goes and makes a swap, brings on Annabelle Chukwu, who... Yeah, first sequence of play when she gets the ball, they send the ball deep to her, and she sends in a deep shot. And you're hoping, okay, just keep the ball low, maybe it'll skid, and then you won't be able to truly gauge it. And it works. That goes on. Canada puts on the pressure, corner after corner, and then it's Annabelle Chukwu off of a set piece corner. 59th minute, it's now 3-2. Annabelle has maybe a couple more chances where she beats up defender to the ball, but is unable to get her foot wrapped around it, and it goes awry. And the same thing happens over and over again. Not that they can't get their foot around the ball, but they're just unable to be fortuitous in the final third. This goes on until about the 84th minute when Salvador, the center backs get stretched out. A ball is put down the middle. Salvador gets it, goes right down the highway, gets the ball past Henning. It's 4-2, and that's your final score. Juliette Perrault came on for Geneva Hernandez Gray in the 88th minute. Kitty Ozark came on for Ebo Ching in the 87th minute. Those were like subs. Liana Tarasco came on for Jadea Collin, who I think had a solid game in this game, in the 70th minute, as did April Latang, who came on for Sienna Gibson. And so it's interesting to ask, like, what do you take from a game like this? I think based off of what they had to go through, right? They sat for 2 hours. They started off that game strongly, showed some resilience, weren't able to get the result they wanted, but they were able to show some resilience and fight some grit. I think that's good for what you want to see from this team going forward. I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and they were just saying, I think sometimes we forget how good that generation before was. Right? Yes, they had Geneva Hernandez, Gray, Jadea Collin, Annabelle Chukwu was with them as well. I believe Ebo Ching was there, or Jenna Okiki, one of the two were there. But like, you can't compare those rosters one to the other, because I think that roster from 2 years ago was loaded to the nth degree, and that's even without players who, I mean, I'm still looking and calling for. So I think this team performed very well based off the circumstances that they had. I think when you look at how they played, I don't want to blame the pitch, but give them a little less waterlogged pitch. I think they can pass and do what they want to do, and I think Mexico can do that as well, so that heightens that game. but I think for what they had to play against, they played well. And so what this means for Canada right now is are slated to play the winner of Group A. As it stands currently, that would be the United States, which I don't think would be a bad matchup for them. Costa Rica has the opportunity to play Puerto Rico. Well, let's make sure we have the matches up here. Yeah, Puerto Rico plays Guyana, and then Costa Rica plays the United States. And that USA Costa Rica game is very interesting because Costa Rica right now sit with 4 points after drawing Puerto Rico in the earlier round. And so as a result, Costa Rica, if you are Puerto Rico, you are hoping the United States beats Costa Rica and you beat Guyana. If you are Guyana, you're already out. There's nothing you can do. If you're Costa Rica, a win basically guarantees that you will play Canada. And maybe you want to try to avoid Mexico right now. I don't think anyone has looked properly dominant yet in this competition. The US had a good performance. All the top 4 teams have had good performances. US had a top performance, Canada had a top performance, Costa Rica had a top performance, and Mexico had a top performance. Group A is still alive because Puerto Rico was able to get that draw. It's unfortunate for Guyana. They've just not been able to really defend well, even though they do have the athleticism to do it. So what's at stake, depending on when you're watching this, USA beats Costa Rica. USA goes on. Right now, the US is basically set to go on. It just comes down to which place they're going to go into. Puerto Rico playing Guyana need a Costa Rica loss to move on. It can't be a draw. If it's a draw, they can't catch them. Puerto Rico, that is. So the United States really in control of everything here. The winner of this group will play Canada. The loser of this group, or the second place team of this group, will play Mexico. So seeding and positioning does matter. Guys, let me know what you think. Who you're rooting for. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right here.